Hello, fairy finders and fairy seekers. Welcome to FaerieQuest and another episode of Real Fairies in Real Photos. On this day, we are headed for the beach at Pine Lake State Park. This is one of the trails that heads for that beach. And I wanted to share with you very quickly here what this trail looks like. I took photos on each side of the trail as we made our way down as far as Sammy would go, and then turned around. This will be a 3-part series because there were 44 fairies in these photographs that I just have to share with you. Some of them are so amazing, and I am going to try and draw some of these at some point, and there will be a few that I'm going to douse with to find out some information as well. Please be patient with me as I get parts 2 and 3 completed for you. But for now, let's take a look at the phenomenal fairies in part 1 here. Let me know what you think in the comments. Enjoy! Due to the size of this fairy in comparison to the leaves, he was difficult to enlarge for you, and blur is the result. Regardless, we can see his face in profile, which includes hair, an ear, an eye, his nose, and a chin. We can also see one arm bent at the elbow and his hand, which is flesh-colored. He has done his best to blend himself into his surroundings and really did do an amazing job. You have to admire their abilities. Here we have 2 fairies conversing with one another. Both faces are very white. The fairy on the left has a long ponytail, and it looks like she may have wings folded up off her white shoulder. We can see one eye, a nose, and her mouth is open as she is talking. The fairy on the right is shorter. She has poofy hair and is wearing glasses. She looks older in the face than the taller fairy. She appears to be wearing an outfit that is brown, but details are difficult. Both are beautiful fairies. And as a side note, the one on the left does seem to be looking over her shoulder as though she is looking at her wings. So maybe there's something not quite right, and she's trying to show the older fairy that there's something going on. This fairy lady is poking her head out from between 2 leaves. We can see she has blonde hair, and we are seeing her face straight on. She appears to be holding something in her hand, maybe eating something or smoking a pipe, as I have seen other older lady fairies doing. She certainly isn't shy about looking right at me as I take the photo. She is very small in comparison to the 2 leaves she is seen between. Her outfit is black, possibly a long robe. A unique fairy here for sure. He is wearing a pointed hat, has big black eyes with a little oval button nose in between. Look closely. We also see the fingers of one hand and an arm, but it is difficult to make out much else about his body. He appears to be short and stocky. Directly beneath this guy in the larger photo to the left, we can see a female of the same species of fairy. We see her hat, eyes, and part of an arm and hand. Her hand is holding on to something. A couple here, perhaps? Clearly here, we see a face in the leaf. This is one of 2 possibilities. This fairy heard me coming and hid himself within the leaf, or he is using the leaf as a kind of seeing crystal from another dimension to see what is going on over here. Whichever it is, we can see both eyes, both ears, a nose, mouth, and chin. This is similar to how orbs are used at times. Beings can travel with an orb without leaving home, and all we will see is a face. The fairy here may be peering into a leaf from his own dimension and connecting up with a leaf here just to see what he can see. This fairy is making use of the rocks to look through the tree. Is he looking at me as I take the photo? I don't know for sure. We do see his head quite clearly with black hair, both eyes, his nose, mouth, and ear, his chin, and even a small part of his neck. He is bent at the waist, peering through this tree, and the two arrows above pointing to the right are pointing at his butt and his foot. I wonder if he makes his home in the rocks he is standing on. This fairy, like some of the others you will see in this video, is on the edge of the photo. I believe she has a long pointed hat, but we can only see a small bit of it here. The rest is off the photo edge. Despite being on the edge, we can see her feet, legs, and torso all in black, then her face in profile. She appears to have a lot of hair. I love it when we can see the fairies doing something specific. Here we can see this fairy from the side, looking down at something that she is holding in her hands. They look like papers or maybe a book made from leaves. We see all of this fairy from head to foot. She is wearing a foot-length dress. She is quite stylish with a hat to match her outfit. This fairy is very close to the fairy you saw in the previous frame, as shown by the red arrow in the bigger photo. I hadn't planned on including this fairy when I did my photo count for these videos, but I decided he had to be a part of things. I am unsure what kind of fairy he is, but what stands out here is that he has his tongue wrapped around the stick in front of him. He has eyes that are black and almost look hollow, and we can also see both of his ears. He appears to be dressed in black, though we cannot see his body clearly. This fairy and the next two you will see are at the very top of this photo. This one reminds me of the movie depicted fortune tellers, with her poofy hair and the sleeve of her outfit appearing decorated, like sequined, with a very wide wrist opening. She is clutching a black box so close that it is obscuring the lower part of her face. She blends very well into the leaves around her, apparently part of her magical abilities. I have taken hundreds of fairy photos, and maybe even more than that, and I can count on one hand how many fairies like Tinkerbell I have photographed. Here is one of them, and she came into the photo in the very top left corner, as you can see in the photo to the left. I would certainly have missed her altogether if it hadn't been for her arm and hand. Once I saw that, the rest of her was easy enough to see. Her face is not very clear, but we can see one of her eyes, and I have outlined what we can see of her wings for you. Out of the 18 photos in this video, this is the one I have to say is my favorite. She is seated on the leaves at the very top of the photo, and I almost missed her. What catches my eye here are her eyes, which seem to be outlined with some kind of sparkly substance, making them stand out. I don't know if she is a nature spirit or a fairy, F-A-I-R-Y, but she will be one I douse with for more information. If you are having any difficulty seeing her, step back from your phone or computer and look. One leg is stretched out across the leaf, and the other is bent at the knee. Sometimes the human faces of some of these fairies are just too clear to dismiss. Though we cannot see anything but his face, we can definitely see the human resemblance. We have dark hair, 2 eyes, the nose, and the mouth. He looks like he may be wearing a kind of metallic collar too. Do you see it? Sometimes these fairies are so very small, but very much worth sharing, because if I can enlarge them successfully, some of them have incredible detail. We can see this fairy's face very clearly with hair, eyes, nose, and mouth. We can also see that she is wearing a dark dress, but we cannot see all of it. In fact, it appears as though she is coming out of the leaf. One hand is up toward her face as though reacting to possibly being seen entering our world. She looks like she may be saying, "Oh my." Here we have a fairy that is a bit of a mystery. In the larger photo to the left, I would swear that this fairy is bending over, looking at something with half of him on the left side of the brown stick and his head on the right side. In the enlarged photo above, I see a girl fairy with all of her on the right side of the stick. She has pushed herself up against it, hiding from me as I take the picture. She is wearing a black dress, and we can see her face in profile with an eye and open mouth, and we can see one sleeved arm and her hand. What do you see? This fairy is so very unique. His eyes are kind of slitted, and he appears to be whistling. He's obviously comfortable as he is laid back with one leg down and the other out in front. There is also the eye on what looks like a leaf in front of him, but it could also be a pet that has blended with him. You've got to love the striped boots. Another fairy on the edge of the photo, but what a cutie. We can see the eyes with their special markings, the nose, and the mouth as this little one turns to look at his or her backside. There are special markings on the top of the head to the point, too. I don't think this is a hat on this one. It's a really good picture, and this fairy has sweet eyes. Here is another really tiny fairy. We can see her dark hair, one eye, one arm, 2 hands, and 1 leg and foot. The little round balls are her hands and feet. She is so adorable. We can even see the line for the bottom of her dress. She stood out clearly in this photo despite how tiny she is in comparison to the leaves. Perhaps she is a kind of pixie? Just a guess. What do you think? So this is it for video number 1 of this 3-part series. I do hope to see you again for parts 2 and 3. We've got more really awesome fairies. Love to hear what you think in the comments if you have anything to share. Until the next video, take care.